Hello students, my name is Dr. Alice Mani. I will be imparting lessons on business law, course 306. I am the resource person for Mahatma Gandhi National Council of Rural Education. I will be imparting lessons on business law. This is part of the BBA Rural Management course. This course is divided into 4 units. You will have 16 modules covering the syllabus. The 4 modules will be, the first module is an introductory chapter. Second chapter is various acts. The third is Sale of Goods Act, and the fourth and last chapter is Consumer Protection Act 2019. We will begin the first unit, which is Introduction to Business Law and the Indian Contract Act. This unit will be covered in 3 modules. The first module will look at the introduction to law, business law, and the sources of business law. The second module will cover the 10 essential elements of a valid contract. And the third and last module will cover the types of contracts. This is module 3 of chapter 1. It is titled Types of Contracts. So let us study in detail and understand the types of contracts to reduce mistakes while entering into contracts in the official capacity or personal dealings. As already mentioned, this lesson is an introduction to the types of contracts and has been structured to cover 4 broad areas in the following way. First, I will introduce the classification of contracts based on the point of view of enforceability. Second, we will learn the types of contracts based on mode of creation. The objective of the third module is to learn the types of contracts based on extent of execution. The fourth and last module will cover the types of contracts based on the basis of performance. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand the types of contracts based on the view of enforceability, mode of creation, extent of execution, and performance. Let us learn the types of contracts. Types of contracts can be divided into 4 categories. First, from the point of view of enforceability. Second, from the point of view of mode of creation. Third, from the extent of execution. And fourth, from the point of view of performance. Let us learn these topics in details. From the point of view of enforceability, contracts can be subdivided into 5. The subdivisions are valid contracts, voidable contracts, void contracts, unenforceable contracts, and illegal contracts. Let us understand these contracts in details. Let us learn about valid contracts. What do you think about valid contracts? You know that if a contract fulfills all the 10 essential elements, then it becomes a valid contract. For example, when we take a housing loan, we have to sign a contract with the bank. It will be a valid contract to avoid future complications. The bank will include all the terms and conditions like mode of repayment, duration of loan, guarantors to the loan, security for loan, rate of interest, consequences of delaying payment, procedure for closing the loan, etc. Can you think about other valid contracts? I am sure you can remember some. Examples: insurance contracts, health insurance contracts, purchase of assets, immovable property, employment contracts, purchase of vehicles, etc. The second subdivision is voidable contracts. Do you know what it is? A voidable contract is one which is enforceable by law at the option of one of the parties to the contract. This happens when the consent of one party is obtained by fraud, misrepresentation, or any fraudulent means. For example, let us assume Mr. A is not the owner of a property and he forged the documents to get the ownership of it. Then he sold the property to Mr. B. Mr. B, without knowing that the documents are forged, bought the property. When Mr. B comes to know that Mr. A is not the actual owner, he can cancel the contract. So, Mr. B has an option to consider this contract as voidable. Since Mr. A obtained his consent by fraud. The third subdivision is void contracts. Now, what is the meaning of void contracts? The word void means not binding in law. Void contract means a contract which has no legal effect at all. For example, contracts entered into by minors, bankrupts, lunatics, etc. are all examples for void contracts. The fourth subdivision is unenforceable contracts. An unenforceable contract is one which is valid but is not capable of being enforced in a court of law due to some technical defects. The technical defects can be absence of writing, registration, requisite stamp duty, etc. For example, if the lease agreement is an oral agreement, it is unenforceable. To make it a valid document, it should be written, signed by parties and registered. The last subdivision is illegal contracts. These are agreements which are against the law, that is, in violation of law. As per the Indian Penal Code, threatening someone, killing someone, damaging someone's property, etc. are all acts against the violation of law. For example, if two parties enter into contract to kill someone, it is an illegal contract. As per the second category of classification, types of contracts can be divided on the basis of mode of creation. Accordingly, contracts can be subdivided into three, that is, express, implied, and quasi or constructive contracts. Let us learn about these contracts in details. Express contracts are quite common in our day-to-day lives. What is express contract? Express contracts are where an offer or acceptance is made in the word spoken or written. Here, parties do not make registered and signed agreements. For example, if you want to buy a washing machine, either I will go to a consumer durable shop or from the online platform select one as per my requirements and preferences. Then negotiate for the price. If it is acceptable to both the parties, the deal is closed. This is an example for express contract. An implied contract is understood from the behavior of the parties and it is not expressed by words spoken or written. For example, the act of getting into the bus is an offer by the passenger to travel, subject to the company's rules regarding the payment of fare. When the driver stops the bus for the passenger and if the conductor permits him to enter the bus, that is the acceptance of the offer. This is the same case when a taxi driver or auto driver is taking a passenger for a trip. Similarly, if you travel in a flight or train, there is an implied offer and acceptance. There is no need for more communication. It is implied from the conduct of the parties that there is an implied offer and acceptance. There is a famous case to explain implied contracts. The case is Upton Rural District Council versus Powell. Have you heard about this case? Let me explain it for you. This case happened in 1942. In this case, a fire broke out in defendant Mr. Powell's farm. He believed that he is entitled to free services of Upton Fire Brigade and therefore called them for help. Actually, Mr. Powell was not entitled to get the services of Upton Fire Brigade as it was outside their service area. Mr. Powell was entitled to free services of Pershore Fire Brigade. Since Mr. Powell has called for the services outside his service area, the Upton Fire Brigade expected payment for their services. Mr. Powell refused to pay and a case was filed. The court held that it is the liability of the owner to control the fire in his farm. The fire brigade went to Mr. Powell's farm thinking that they will get payment for their services. So the court held that Mr. Powell is under an implied contract with Upton Fire Brigade and asked to pay for their services. Thus, the court held that the services were rendered on an implied promise to pay for them. We can take some examples for implied contract from our day-to-day lives. If you visit a restaurant and orders food, the restaurant will serve you food. But there is an implied acceptance that you will pay for it. Similarly, imagine an ambulance is taking the patient to a hospital emergency ward. There is an implied contract between the patient and the hospital that the patient will pay for the hospital services. Similarly, at the railway station, a porter takes the luggage of a tourist even without asking him. If the tourist doesn't want the porter to carry his luggage, he has to stop the porter then itself. If not, there is an implied contract between the porter and the tourist. Hence, the tourist has to pay the porter's charges for carrying his luggage. The third subdivision is the quasi or constructive contract. A quasi contract is based upon the equitable principle that a person shall not be allowed to retain unjust benefit at the expense of another. I will simplify this. Imagine you lost your dog and you announced a reward of 1000 rupees to the finder if he will return the dog to you. There is no agreement or contract between the parties. But if the finder of your pet dog returns the dog to you, then he will get the reward of 1000 rupees. This is the quasi or constructive contract. As already mentioned, in quasi contracts, there is no offer or acceptance between the parties. If we examine the important case decisions, we can see that under certain circumstances, court creates contracts between parties artificially and thus binds over the parties. Such contracts which are created by virtue of law are called quasi contracts. For example, when one party supplies necessaries to the other without request, a quasi contract comes into effect. This was established in Chawla versus Cooper, 1844. In this case, a miner's husband passed away and since she contracted undertakers to organize the funeral, they paid for all the funeral expenses, but she refused to pay for it. She claimed that being a minor, she has no capacity to contract. The undertakers later sued for the expenses incurred. The court held that when the person who has furnished such supplies is entitled to be reimbursed from the property of such incapable person. Quasi contracts are based on the equitable principle that no man should grow rich out of another person's loss. Therefore, liability in case of quasi contract is based on the principle of unjust enrichment. It essentially means that no man should just unjustly be enriched at the cost of another person's loss. Let us look at the features of quasi contracts. The two features of quasi contracts are the following. First, the origin of quasi contract is not based on offer and acceptance. Second, it is based on justice and equity linked to natural justice. In short, we can say that a quasi contract is not an actual contract, but it is a legal substitute formed to impose equity between two parties. The concept of quasi contract is that a contract should have been formed, but in reality it was not formed. Thus, a quasi-contract is used when a court finds it appropriate to create an obligation upon a non-contracting party to avoid injustice and to ensure fairness. Thus, quasi-contracts are fictional contracts created by courts for equitable and non-contractual purposes. The next category of classification of contract is from the point of view of execution. On this basis, contracts are subdivided into two, that are executed and executory contracts. A contract is said to be executed when both the parties to the contract have completely performed their share of obligation and nothing remains to be done by either party under the contract. This is a simple concept to understand. In the case of cash sales, both the parties have completed their share of obligation. Thus, cash sales are the best example for executed contracts. Executory contract is just the opposite of this concept. A contract is said to be executory when either or both the parties to the contract have to perform their share of obligation or there remains something to be done under the contract by both the parties to the contract. For example, in the case of a credit sale, both the parties to the contract have to complete their share of obligation. Therefore, credit sales are executory contracts. In a credit sale, the payment may not have been fully made, or the sold items may not have been delivered to the buyer. The last category of classification of contract is on the basis of performance. On this basis, contracts are subdivided into two, that are unilateral or one-sided and bilateral or two-sided contracts. Unilateral contracts are also known as executed consideration. Similarly, bilateral contracts are also known as executory consideration. In case of the unilateral or one-sided contract, one party to the contract would have performed his share of obligation at the time of its formation itself. The obligation will be outstanding only against the other. For example, in the case of finder of lost dog, he has completed his share of obligation. The owner of dog has to give the reward. Thus, it becomes a unilateral contract. We come across advertisements like a reward for finding lost goods, valuables, jewelry, property documents, dogs, vehicles or children. When a stranger finds the lost item, he has completed his share of obligation. Now, the advertiser has to give the promised reward to the finder of the lost item. Thus, one party has completed his share of obligation by completing his act. This is the reason why these contracts are also called executed consideration or unilateral consideration. In the case of bilateral or two-sided contracts, both the parties have to complete their share of obligation at the time of formation of the contract. For example, Mr. A enters into a contract with Mr. B to paint his house. Mr. B agrees to paint the house after 3 months due to COVID-19 pandemic. In this case, both the parties have to complete their share of obligation at the time of formation of the contract. Mr. B will paint the house after 3 months. Mr. A will then pay the charges after completing the painting work. Thus, it is a two-sided or bilateral contract. In bilateral contracts, both the parties have to complete their share of obligation. Then only the contract will be completed. That is the reason these types of contracts are also called as executory consideration or bilateral consideration. Our learning wouldn't be complete if we don't assess what we have learned. So, here is an activity for you. Make a collage or poster from magazine photos for demonstrating your understanding of types of contracts. Now that we have reached the end of this lesson, I hope that you have learned the types of contracts and its subdivisions. Hope you got a good insight on the topics we discussed in this module. To conclude this third module, which we have learned types of contracts, I want to remind you that this is the last module of Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is titled The Introduction to Business Law and the Indian Contract Act. You remember that in the first module we covered what is law, what is business law, and what is sources of business law. In the second module we learned about the Indian Contract Act 1872. We learned the features of Indian Contract Act and the 10 essential elements to make it a valid contract. This was the third module. There we covered the types of contracts. We know that types of contracts are divided into 4 broad categories, and that subdivisions also we have learned. With this, we have completed the first chapter, that is Introduction to Business Law and Indian Contract Act. This is what I want to tell you about the conclusion. Until we meet again, bye from me. Thank you.